Hello there, this is Steve here in Sydney on the lay gnosis website truebluehealer.com, where in 20 minutes you can get some help from a second intelligence available to everybody, commonly called the Divine Spark, and it enables you to navigate your way more readily through the veritable blizzard of mis and disinformation that avalanches you 24/7 these days, it seems. Okay? What I want to talk about today is a subject which you'd think, because it's all scientifically known and been studied for decades and decades, well understood. It's called consanguinity, which is a $12 medical word for marrying your cousin. And you just get on Google, you can find out that marrying your cousin is institutionalised in the Arab Muslim world. And the reason being, it's part of the Quran. Muhammad did it. He praised it. And every good Muslim seems to believe that they have to go to Mecca once in their lifetime. And if they can, they should try and marry a cousin. Now, there's a lot of scientific evidence, many of the scholars being Muslim, who tell us that intermarriage, family inbreeding, that's the layman's term for it. Inbreeding with cousins is a disaster for concentrating genetic faults in people such as schizophrenia and depression. This is known by general practitioners in the Western world. It concentrates physical disabilities, mental illnesses of many kinds, dyslexias and all sorts, reading difficulties, high on the list of things due to marrying your cousin. In case you didn't know, in Saudi Arabia, the marriage rate of marrying your cousin is about 40% or 50% of all the marriages. The same goes all around the Mediterranean, where Islamic nations are. They all been merrily marrying their cousins and producing. One of the side effects of it is that there's a very high likelihood that your IQ will be reduced by 10 to 16 points. There'll be links for all this, of course. 10 to 16 point reduction at every iteration of marrying your cousin. And if you have a whole society doing it for 1400 years, you have what could only be called a societal and genetic catastrophe. It is often said that Islam is not a race, but if you know your facts and figures about this, that this 1400 years of marrying your cousin, they've actually produced a race of people by inbreeding with very, very fixed attitudes and rigidity that seems to be keeping them in the 7th century. I mean, you cannot think of a single Islamic invention, can you? Or an Islamic medical breakthrough, can you? There isn't one. So their inbreeding seems to have held them back, and it's a disaster. They've been unable to co-develop as the Western world has developed without inbreeding. The studies indicate that Arab people in particular have a lot more reading difficulties than Western people. That's known. They also occupy a lot more seats in mental health refuges. They produce a lot more per capita than Western nations. That's from the migrant intake they have to live with at the moment. Clear evidence is available that Muslim people fail IQ tests for the Danish army, for example. That's been studied. 3 times more likely to fail for lack of IQ. You can't even get in the army, okay, because you just don't have the brains to be good enough to serve in the army. 3 times more Muslim people than Western people fail the test. So they produce about 3 times more mentally deficient men. That's people with low IQs under about 80 something. All right? This is a fact we have to face. This general lack of IQ is one of the reasons, inability to handle yourself and read and be confident by yourself in a social situation is commented on by a Muslim scholar, I think from Sweden. I'll have a link for you. And he points out that there's about 50 million Muslims in Europe already, and 80% of them are on benefits. They cannot get a job. They cannot function as workers contributing their labour to advance Europe. So they just stay at home on benefits with free roof over their head, that sort of thing. That's a serious millstone round the neck of the European taxpayer, which simply cannot be tolerated, can't be allowed to keep growing. It's a major social problem that was never anticipated with the open borders and the belief in human rights, and everyone has a right to live in the wonderful Disneyland life of Europe. I'm glad to see in the English-speaking world that people are waking up to the fact that there's a racial component to crime rates. A sort of leaked document, a draft copy of something coming out of the Australian federal government is to fine-tune our migrant intake, and because we have the highest per capita of teenage jihadis in the world. And it's very perplexing to begin with, because you say, well, their parents come and they behave, they're okay, but their teenage children grow up and want to blow up the Sydney Harbour Bridge, literally. They want to go to Syria and fight somebody, kill people, that sort of thing, you see. So the Australian federal government, now that's caused likely by inbreeding, okay? Primitive dullness, mental feebleness thinking, okay? Belligerent feeble-mindedness, okay? The Australian government has just released a paper where they specifically focus on the source of jihadis is Sunni Lebanese people, okay? One particular brand of people from a particular country provide all the jihadi fanatics, which are all young and criminal to start with, and a lot of them end up as drug dealers, and they end up going to fight with ISIS, etc., because there's a price on their head. There's genuine cases of that, okay? But I'm very glad to see the Australian government has got the courage to finally put criminality against a particular group of people, a nation, okay, and say, well, we've got to refine our response to these people. How are we going to filter them out, or what are we going to do with them? At the same time, two English newspapers, the Daily Telegraph and the Daily Mail, have, I'll give you links for this, they've said that they're quoting the Nigerian president as saying he regrets, and he's apologising for his own people taking their national crime rate all over the damn world. And he's actually ordered his own people to stop migrating and spreading their natural criminality, ruining the rest of the world. That's an article quoting the president of Nigeria. Somali criminals are now being mentioned in the Daily Mail as being the sole offenders in so much street crime. So Europeans are slowly waking up. European newspapers, Australian newspapers, are putting their toe in the water, saying, well, we're going to have to start talking about groups of people being unsuitable for migration, okay? Now, so I consider that a very useful and positive awakening of Western media to the fact that you can connect crime to ethnic origins, and with this news about inbreeding, where you can say some societies that seem to live in a total mess and total civil war are probably unreformable. Well, now you know the reason. Inbreeding has lowered their average IQ over many, many centuries, and they're not likely to ever produce a sophisticated society like Europe. So they're best left in the hellholes of their own making, rather than letting them just bring their low IQ criminal ways to the Western world. Now, I'm quite certain that this video will be slammed by the social justice movement, and I'm going to get some pathological titles applied to me, such as racist, what's the other one? Islamophobic. As if those things are crimes, you see. And that's an attempt to medicalise my condition and that I'm somehow defective. But it's absolutely wrong. So to the social justice movement, I will say this. Having said all these things about Islam, I'm married to a Muslim. Okay? And she's quite dark, so dark-skinned that Australian Aboriginals mistake her as one of them in Aboriginal suburbs of Sydney. They literally wave to her and call out across the street saying, "Hi, sister." So 2 things you could never call me are a racist or Islamophobe, can you? So you'll have to think up some other pathologising terms, won't you, dear social justice movement? Oh, I'm a European white male. Ooh, that's evil, isn't it? We built civilization. It should be torn down, shouldn't it, and replaced with inbred people from all over the damn world who can't even use a toilet, for Christ's sake. Is that what you want, social justice movement? Goodness gracious, what kind of program are you running out there on the internet? Oh, and it just dawned on me what the third pathologising epithet you'll want to hang on me. You're probably going to call me social justice movement. You're probably going to start trying to head kick me and call me a white supremacist. Okay? That's a common controlling thing they use, particularly on German people who disagree with things that the social justice movement don't like, that left-wing people don't like. Anyway, you can't call me a white supremacist because I married a black Muslim. You see? So, good luck with the name calling. Oh, just in case you're wondering, my wife's family is star-studded with talent. There is, in fact, I can just think of, there's a PhD, there's a university lecturer, and there's 2 high school principals. And conversations with them are always very sparkling. So not everyone is a victim of the inbreeding disaster. So what I've been talking about are the generalisations of peer-reviewed scientists over decades who need to generalise, governments need to generalise. That's all we need to say, because Europe is a general mess, isn't it? Something has to be done. So if you need to describe me and call me an Islamoralist or some kind of obe or phobe or something, I like evidence-based thinking as long as it doesn't go too far and become a religion in itself, such as scientism. I don't like that at all. And I'm in favour of evidence-based thinking to make decisions, and that's got the Western world head and shoulders above everyone else. Other nations are trying to catch up, and they have. Japan's done it, China's done it. We did get ahead, we did get there first, probably due to some unique geopolitical possibilities. But Islam never got there, was never in the race, and it seems to be because of what seems to be a fake holy book. I cannot believe a loving, omniscient, omnipotent God would instruct any person to say, inbreed your people for 1,500 years and produce subnormal people who can't read and can't use toilets. I can't believe a God would do that to Muhammad. So he must have been making the whole thing up. Okay, he must have been. Simple as that. Anyway, that's how I see it, and you're welcome to criticise me.